Want to welcome you guys back to another episode of Pistons Talk Podcast presented by FanDuel. I tried to say two words at once. I got to stop doing that. We decided to start the podcast a little bit earlier than we intended uh, because, you know what, I'm just so hyped. My brain is thinking a million miles an hour. My words aren't even coming out. Um, Game two, Eastern Conference semifinals against the Cavs. We're going to get into it with another win by the Detroit Pistons. That makes 5 straight playoff wins after being down 3-1 to Orlando. So 5 straight for the Pistons in the playoffs. Hell of a game. We're going to be going over the quarter notes. We're going to be going over the box score, team stats, open up the show to Q&A. I'm sure a lot of you guys are very excited, very hyped. That was the most lively crowd that I've heard so far in these playoffs, even with the broadcast trying to mute the crowd. I know a lot of you that were there told me like it's unreal, like your eardrums popped. It was super loud. Let's get into this post-game show, man. Let's go, man. Let's go. So to start this quarter, it was a lot similar to game one, where the Pistons came out with just more energy than Cleveland. They didn't really seem like they were completely locked in, but that's not the Pistons' problems. Uh, they forced over 6 turnovers in this first, and Cleveland only shot a miserable 35%. Duncan Robinson made 2 great defensive plays. He had one very early on in the game where Cleveland was kind of falling asleep, gets the ball, hits a corner 3, a couple possessions later, playing the passing lanes and just drives it and scores. Like really a big 5 points by Duncan Robinson in those 2 sequences. Tobias Harris did go down, which I was very concerned. As soon as he grabbed his hip, if you guys know, like he had hip injuries that did keep him sidelined. He was able to get checked up by the Pistons medical staff and just kind of tough it out. I don't really know what happened. I don't know if it's his hip just locked up and he couldn't try to stay in front of Donovan Mitchell. But he was able to stay in the game, and that highlights all over. It's going to be all over SportsCenter because it wasn't even an ankle breaker. People are calling it a hip breaker, but glad Tobias was able to stay in the game, and he was huge down the stretch in this game, which we'll talk about a little bit later. Sar Thompson had a lot of backdoor cuts in this first quarter and just really great defensive awareness, getting steals, playing those passing lanes, just being in the right place at the right time. Like, I don't fully believe that a lot of fans know like how important he is to this team. Like just some of the plays in the ground that he covers is incredible. And you really saw it in the first quarter. Danius Jenkins, back-to-back playoff games, just being impactful, was hitting his shots, great defense, and the Pistons were able to get out to an early lead, 25-18 after 12 minutes of play. Second quarter, Donovan Mitchell rolled his ankle. Don't really know, like, really what happened. It looked like he kind of tripped on his foot, but he was able to stay in the game. He actually had a much better game, too. Duran was attacking the basket, getting to the rim a little bit better in the second quarter. Sar Thompson did pick up his 3rd foul. And it was a frustration foul, I think, trying to guard James Harden. You don't really see a Sar show emotions too much. He kind of gave James a little bit of a shove, and James kind of sold it, flopping, which he did quite a bit in this game. Not flopping so much, but the selling contact. Then Ron Holland came in and to replace Sar, and Ron Holland had some really big minutes while Sar was in foul trouble. And just the energy that I think a lot of us have been, talking about with Ron Holland of like how his hustle is infectious with the second unit and like playing him in the playoffs is needed. And JB had the role with Ron because the Sar was in foul trouble. JB did have to take a timeout after Jared Allen had a couple of paint touches and he was getting his little floaters. Well, the Pistons were still up 36-29 at that point. James Harden started, getting to the free throw line, destroying contact. Pistons did dominate the offensive glass in the second quarter. There was a stretch there where it felt like they had like a 2-minute possession because they just kept getting the ball. They kept crashing the glass, and they were really able to execute in their half court, and they go up 54-43 after 24 minutes of play. I will say, coming out of halftime, back-to-back quarters in this playoff series against the Cavs, Azar picked up his fourth foul really early around the 10-minute mark, and the Pistons defense for the rest of the quarter just wasn't the same. I felt like the flow completely changed. All the momentum went to Cleveland, and they really couldn't hit shots when they were getting in their half court sets. They were able to get to the free throw line to, you know, keep their lead, but Donovan Mitchell started heating up. He had a really good third quarter. Cade Cunningham started being a little bit more aggressive towards the end of the third, and Danish Jenkins hit a huge buzzer beater to end the third with the Pistons lead of 79-75. I want to say one thing about Danish. I know if there's less than 10 seconds in a quarter, he's shooting that shit. Like, he's just shooting. He does not care. I know there was one possession where he actually did pass to Durham for a dunk. But, 9 times out of 10, it feels like I know he's just going to take like a really difficult buzzer beater, and it's usually from 3. But he's had such a high success rate with it where I'm just like, yeah, just give the ball to Danis if, there's a couple of seconds left. Give it to Danis or Cade, and I'm fine with it. But to start the fourth, Cavs played with a lot of energy, and they took their first lead, 81-79. They had a very early lead on 3-0, but that was their first lead. The Pistons had a majority lead throughout this game. Tobias Harris went to work in the post ups, mid range. He's been just so huge for the Pistons when they're really looking for a bucket. And then Cade Cunningham decided, okay, fourth quarter, let me take over. He finished the fourth with 12 points. There was a huge 3 hit. Went to work on James Harden, just able to really take over. And the Pistons going a 9-3 run over a 3-minute span. JB called the timeout because there was a play where the ball looked like it went off Cleveland, but it actually went off Duran. There was a decision whether or not to challenge it. They didn't. Pistons were up 96-91 with 3:20 to play. And the energy in the defense really picked up the last 3 minutes of this game. They were able to make defensive stops. They were able to execute their offense. Really just loved the energy in the fourth. The third quarter concerned me because I was like, you're kind of giving Cleveland momentum, but I'm happy they were able to close this out. They win 197-97, and they lead the series right now 2-0. Next 2 games will be in Cleveland. Game 3, I believe, is on Saturday. I think it's another afternoon game. I have to check. I think it's 3:00. Last time I did check, but they will be in Cleveland. And Pistons have won 5 straight playoff games. And, again, when I looked at the FanDuel odds before this game, it was only a 3.5 point spread. Pistons win by 10. Past couple of games, they've covered the spread. So, I mean, Pistons kind of seem like a safe bet right now when you're kind of just looking at the FanDuel odds. But really happy with just this win overall. I think a lot of you guys are happy too. Let's kind of get into the box score with this one because we did get a lot of contributions from a lot of different players. So let's start with Tobias Harris in the starters, 37 minutes, another 20-point game for him, 9 out of 16 from the field, 2 out of 3 from 3, 7 rebounds, and he was a +8. Especially in the fourth quarter when we really needed those points. He was just so crucial. Duncan Robinson, another good performance by him. He had 17 points, and he shot 50% from the field, where he shot 6 out of 12, 5 out of 9 from 3, he had 3 rebounds, 3 assists, and 3 steals. He was a +5. Said it last game, like if you're getting at least a good 12 to 15 points out of Duncan Robinson, you're going to be incredibly difficult to beat. And he's been such a positive these first 2 games in the playoffs. Orlando really made sure as soon as he had the ball, they're running him off the 3-point line, or there's at least a hand in his face. Cleveland's defense versus Orlando's defense, night and day. It's actually kind of soft compared to Orlando's. That's why I think Duncan has had such a good series so far. Jalen Duren in 33 minutes had 8 points. Didn't really shoot the ball the best. 2 out of 7 from the field, 4 out of 6 from the free throw line. Did have 10 rebounds. 1 assist, 2 turnovers, but overall, he did struggle, and you have to credit Jared Allen who wasn't in foul trouble, was guarding him most of the night. Evan Mobley helped out too a little bit. Cade Cunningham, 42 minutes played, 25 points, 7 out of 14 from the field. So it was 50% from the field and 50% from three, and perfect from the free throw line. Also had 3 rebounds, 10 assists, 5 turnovers, 1 steal, 2 blocks. He was a plus 13. Before he started having those 12 points, he wasn't having his best scoring game, but he decided to take over, which I think is such a unique quality about Cade. Like, he looks to get his teammates involved, but when he knows that it's, go time, take over time, he's been one of the best players in the NBA playoffs so far. He's first in a lot of categories. Believe he's first in fourth quarter points. Believe he's either second or first in points a game averaged right now. He's just been on an absolute heater. Asar Thompson only played 24 minutes because of foul trouble. As you guys can see, he did have 5 personal fouls, but he did have 10 points, 5 out of 8 from the field, 0 for 2 from the free throw line, 7 rebounds, 2 assists, 2 steals. He was a plus 4. One thing about Asar is, I think you saw in the third quarter how important he is, because he was sitting on the bench a majority of that fourth quarter because he did have 4 fouls. I'd like to see him stay under control and not try to pick up fouls. I know that's easier said than done, but overall, his impact defensively, his impact on the glass, offensive and defensive, the Pistons are just a completely different team when he's out there on the court. Go to the bench unit. Isaiah Stewart in 15 minutes had 2 points, 2 rebounds, and both of those rebounds were offensive. Did have a putback after Tobias had missed a free throw, which were really crucial points down the stretch in that game. Ron Holland in 9 minutes scored 2 points, and both of the points were from the free throw line. Went 0 for 3 and 0 for 2 from 3. Had 1 steal and 1 block. Had a little dust up there with James Harden. Ron does not take no shit. Like, that's what I love about him. And it does look like JB Bickerstaff is rolling with him more than Javonte Green, because Javonte only got 4 minutes in this game, and he didn't really do anything whatsoever. Didn't score any points, grab any rebounds, get any steals, and he finished the game with a plus 0. Karis LeVert had 13 minutes, scored 8 points. So if you're getting 8 points out of Karis LeVert, you're probably happy as a Piston fan. Did have 2 rebounds, 1 assist. And Daniel Jenkins led the bench in minutes with 26, had 14 points, 6 out of 14 from the field, 2 out of 5 from 3, 6 rebounds, 4 assists, 1 turnover. So he was a plus 9. And the DMP coach's decisions, same 4. Paul Reed, Tolu Smith, Marcus Sasser, Chaz Lanier. I was kind of surprised we actually did not see Paul Reed in this one, considering that we were kind of getting beat up on the glass a little bit. But, overall, I thought our bigs did a okay job. Going to need Jalen Duren to pick it up a little bit more. But let's get into the team stats, you guys. Pistons shot a better percentage. They shot 49% from the field to Cleveland's 42. They shot 50% from 3. They made 14 out of 28 3-point attempts. Cleveland only shot 22% from 3. And Cleveland's a pretty good 3-point shooting team. They just did not shoot a good percentage from 3 tonight. Free throws, Cleveland shot 22 out of 27, got to the line a lot more than the Pistons. Pistons only got to the line 15 out of 20, so they're 75%. One thing I will say is, anytime a player, and I'm kind of going down a rabbit hole, anytime a player talks about officiating and not getting calls, it's almost like clockwork the next game that the officials are a little bit more whistle happy with that player. Donovan Mitchell he wasn't complaining, but he says, like, I'm not really getting to the free throw line like I was in the regular season. And Cleveland did get to the line a lot more than Detroit. They shot 81% to the Pistons 75, but it kind of seems just like clockwork. Every time a player complains about not getting to the free throw line, they get like a crazy amount of free throws the next game. But hey, man, still got the win, so it doesn't really matter, I guess, right? Rebounds, Pistons win that battle 42-36. Pistons did allow them to get 9 offensive rebounds, but they got 12 offensive rebounds themselves. Pistons out-assisted Cleveland by 121-20. Got more steals than Cleveland, 9-7. Cleveland did have more blocks, 6-5. Turnovers, Pistons did have 13-11. Now, overall, I did think we took good care of the basketball for a majority of the game. There were certain possessions where, not the right play, wasn't fully there. But overall, I think we've done a much better job of taking care of the basketball versus if you remember Orlando, the first two games, we're averaging like 20 turnovers a game. If you can kind of live between like the 10 to 12 range, I think you're happy. Obviously, you want to take care of the basketball, but overall, I thought they did a pretty good job. Pistons did have more fast break points, 13-4. Points in the paint, Cleveland actually won this one 50-42, but that's what happens when you're, getting to the paint and, getting second chance points and getting to the free throw line. But, overall, I thought they did a pretty good job. And no technical fouls or flagrants, and Pistons had 22 fouls to Cleveland's 19. But, overall, really good game. Just that third quarter really, really concerned me. It really did. It really did. I do want to get into Q&A with you guys. Um, this was just such a fun game. It really was. Let me just take a quick break and then we'll be right back. And then we'll make the post game show about you guys. Okay, you guys, we're back. We're going to get into Q&A. So if you have any comments, questions, overall thoughts with this Pistons victory over the Cavs going up 2-0 in the series, let's get into it. So I love this comment by Marquez because it's so true. Grind, grind, grind. The Pistons feast in the clutch. I think a lot of times, and I've noticed this with a lot of talking heads before the second round started. There was so much emphasis and focus on the lack thereof from their perception that the Pistons don't have a great offense and how were they going to compete with a high octane offense like Cleveland? Like, because you have like Donovan Mitchell, you have James Harden, Max Strus, they have some role players, Dennis Schroeder. But I think what you've seen from the Pistons is they manufacture their own offense. Like they might not have like the star power that Cleveland does have, but they have a guy in Cade Cunningham that can average 30 in his sleep. They have guys like Tobias Harris who've been able to step up as a number two option. Asar Thompson's impact defensively. And they do kind of grind it out, like he's saying. Like they just put really good possessions together, especially defensive possessions. I've really felt the defense over the past 5 games in the playoffs have just really stepped up a notch. Ever since they were down 3-1, they have really just locked in the defensive end and just put together like really good quarters outside of the third. I really like this, the overall effort. There was one snippet because Prime had JB Bickerstaff mic'd up. And I don't know if it was directed towards Jalen Duren or Isaiah Stewart. And he was just like, you can't let Donovan Mitchell get a rebound over you. Because JB's like on these guys, like, we want to win this game. We got to get every rebound. We got to play in solid defense and execute our offense. Like, let's slow it down. They're speeding us up a little bit. And you could just tell, like, as a coach, he's just an absolute dog. And he just kind of gets on these guys to grind it out, put good defensive possessions together, and just stay poised. And I think you saw that 100%. So it was to Darren. Okay, okay. I wasn't sure who was it directed towards, but yeah, I think JB was just trying to motivate Darren there a little bit. But yeah, honestly, I'm not even gonna lie. Like when I heard JB say that, I kind of chuckled. I kind of lost it. It kind of took me out. I was like, "Yo, that's hilarious." But I just love what a dog he is as a coach. I had a comment from King. I hope James Harden keeps playing the way he does. He's giving us a great advantage. And I mean, when they made that trade, I was kind of confused because I'm like, I know Darius Garland was hurt, but like, okay, I guess. Like James Harden's a good player. Don't get it twisted, but I never really fully understood. Like, let's trade Darius Garland because he's been having some toe injuries this season and he hasn't been healthy. Let's go get a guy that is looking to get paid and hasn't had the best playoff track record. Obviously, he hasn't won an NBA Finals. Donovan Mitchell hasn't made it to a conference finals. But yeah, James Harden has just been turning the ball over like crazy. He hasn't had a great shooting performance, but I mean, you have to credit that to just the overall on-ball defense that Cade Cunningham, Danish Jenkins, and even Asar Thompson have been doing against James Harden. They've done a very good job. I think overall, like we talk about their defense collectively, but I've been so impressed with the on-ball defense with the Pistons, the way that they've been rotating, the way that they've been communicating, and really having an emphasis on how important James Harden and Donovan Mitchell uh, are. Obviously, Mitchell had a much better game tonight, but James Harden past 2 games have been absolutely terrible. But I agree, he is giving the Pistons advantage when he's making decisions like that. He really is. J Hart's absolutely hyped. Pistons Talk member, shout to J Hart. 2-0, baby. Let's effing go. I can honestly like feel the hype and enthusiasm just through these comments, man. Like I absolutely love it. Absolutely love it. Um, like he is just he's one of my favorite subscribers because I love all of you guys, but Jay Hart is just been a real one, like all season long. Past 3 seasons, he's in every one of these post game shows, always showing support, always DMing, but absolutely love each and every one of you. But Jay Hart is one of my favorites, man. He really is. I do want to kind of get into a couple more comments and questions with you guys, but yeah, that's absolutely awesome. James, what's up with Duran? Okay, so we can kind of get into the Duran discussion. So I think with Jalen Duran right now, what you have to kind of pay attention to is Jared Allen does a very good job of making sure Jalen Duran can't get into his sweet spots. And what I mean by sweet spots is like when he's kind of trying to get into these dribble drives, Jared Allen does a very good job defensively of kind of beating him to like where he wants to go. I don't honestly think Jalen Duren has actually been that bad. I think defensively, game one, he was excellent. Game two is kind of wasn't as consistent. Overall, I think he can get it going. He just has to be a little bit quicker with his decision making when he wants to put the ball on the floor, when he wants to kind of bang down low in the post. I do feel like he's done a better job on the glass of trying to grab rebounds. Felt like he did get fouled a couple of times, pushed in the back because he was trying to corral an offensive rebound, but Cleveland kind of trying to push him out of the way. Overall, I think he will have a better game three. I think he's just too big and strong for their bigs personally. We talked about it last post game podcast. Like Evan Mobley, I think is a solid 220 pounds. Jalen Duren, 100% can body him. I think he's stronger than Jared Allen too. I think he just has to use his frame against these guys and get good position in the post. But overall, I wouldn't be too concerned with tonight's performance by him. I think defensively, JB was kind of getting at him with the rebounding because we know he can be a good rebounder when he goes up there and gets it. Like no one's going to out muscle you. You're probably the strongest guy on the court. you really are. But overall, I really wouldn't be too concerned with his effort. Really, case correct. Tobias and Duncan have been fully Detroit mentality, just to be cool and talk shit when people try on you. I've been really impressed with just how Tobias has stepped up. Like, I think a lot of us didn't really know who was going to be the number 2 option. I think a lot of us were like, oh, yeah, it's going to be Jalen Duren. But Tobias Harris has been like a 20-point per game guy for Cade Cunningham. And Duncan Robinson has had 2 great performances against the Cavs. But the full, Detroit mentality, like Duncan's bumping chest, talking shit. Tobias Harris is talking shit. I know Tobias has definitely said that kind of being around the young guys kind of like motivates him to kind of get into like his inner dog. And I absolutely love that. I absolutely love that like the younger guys are being an influence to him. And I'm to the point, and I know it might be an overreaction. It might be an overreaction by me, but like I wouldn't be opposed to bringing Tobias back. Like I really wouldn't. Like I just like his veteran presence. Um, Obviously, I know we have to eventually look for a long-term power forward. I'm not saying give Tobias like huge amounts of money. I'm not saying that, but I wouldn't be opposed to bringing him back because I really feel like he's just such a culture guy on and off the court, having these guys be more professional, taking care of their bodies, and just being a veteran that they can go to because he's been in the league for I think what 15 years now, and he's just a pro's pro. You hear so many coaches, you hear so many players just talk about like how he's just a good player for that locker room. Go Pistons 4 said these games almost feel like regular season games relative to the last round. Everything is flowing so much easier. Honestly, like when I was watching the Magic series versus this series, like Cavs are soft defensively, like straight up. Like the Cavs, like they don't have bad defenders, but I think the Magic showed you how physical in the Pistons' chest they were. Like, it seemed like Jalen Suggs was never let Cade just have a one-on-one isolation matchup. That's happened multiple times this series. Um, Cavs don't really switch. They just have like the two rim protectors in Jared Allen and Evan Mobley. But like overall, like the defense is night and day between Cleveland in Orlando. And I think Detroit kind of senses that because they've been in these games. Like they've led for a majority of these first two games. Cleveland has never really had the momentum. I keep hitting my mic over. I gotta stop doing that. But overall, like when you kind of just compare the two, like I was texting with a buddy. I was like, I think Orlando probably could have gave Cleveland some fits. Even though Orlando does not have a good, offensive team, like Orlando probably could have gave Cleveland fits too. Um, but yeah, these games kind of they do feel like a regular season game, versus a playoffs game because like Cleveland really hasn't showed any type of aggression like you're used to seeing in the playoffs. But I think you just have to credit to the Pistons because they're just the more physical basketball team right now. They're crashing the glass harder. They're getting into their actions faster. They're just putting together great defensive sequences, and Cleveland is just so reliant on Donovan Mitchell and James Harden just doing everything for them. Oftentimes, they're just kind of standing around or standing in the corner. So, I think if you're a Detroit Piston fan, you're probably feeling really good after going up 2-0. I don't know if this is going to be a sweep. I do expect Cleveland to show a little bit of fight for game 3, but if the Pistons come out the way that they have these past 2 games, Cleveland's going to be in a lot of trouble. And I already know the talking heads tomorrow are going to focus more on Cleveland than they are Detroit because I think what you kind of have to look at is this is a team that is a second apron team. There's a lot more pressure on Cleveland than there is Detroit. I know a lot of people think that Detroit has all the pressure because of the number 1 seed. To me, I honestly believe Cleveland has way more pressure than the Detroit Pistons. My expectations, you guys, and it's not your expectations. My expectations was to win a playoff round. They did that. Right now, as a Piston fan, I'm just enjoying the ride. But I know, the guys in the locker room, they don't want their season to end. They want to go as far as possible. They want to, try to compete for a championship. But I will say Cleveland has way more pressure than the Pistons. Kenny Atkinson's seat's going to get really hot if he gets bounced out by JB Bickerstaff. 100%. 100%. Like, I can already hear the talking heads on podcast tomorrow or just on Sports Center saying how do the Pistons up 2-0 against Cleveland? They're going to focus more on the Cavs than they are the Pistons, giving them credit. But I'm used to it at this point. Um, but man, it'll be interesting to see how they're going to kind of talk about the Pistons nationally. I already know they're going to focus more on the Cavs than they're going to focus on the Pistons. I think we're used to that by now, right? Like, we should be used to the Pistons not getting like that the national coverage of like, oh, how do the Pistons go up 2-0 on the Cavs? Are the Pistons legit? Like, I can already hear it. It's just like the first take stuff, which I've stopped watching after I was in high school. But I want to get into a couple more comments and questions. Um, I love this comment by the Beers. Everyone's talking about Duran's money, but what about Tobias? He's looking good in the playoffs. I think Tobias will definitely get paid. I know the Lakers will be sniffing around. I know there are some other teams that will probably sniff around for his services. Um, I don't think Tobias is getting a max. I'll just say that. I think he will get paid. I just don't think it's going to be, $30 million paid, because I think that's where Duran, in my personal opinion, is probably looking at. He's probably between the 30 and 35 million a year range right now. I know his camp wanted closer to a max, but I think if you're the Pistons and you're Trajan Langdon, I mean, you can just kind of put the tape on for the playoffs so far. Obviously, Duran hasn't had his best playoffs. He's not averaging that 19 that he was during the regular season. But I know Duran's camp does want to get paid. He'll probably get anywhere between, like, I would say 140 to 170. Like, I honestly think like that could be a price range for Duran. Tobias, I'm not really sure. I know someone said mid-level exception for Tobias, which I believe is around 15 million. Like, I think what I was thinking in my head is maybe around 15 to 20-ish. Maybe a little bit more. Maybe a team is really desperate and they need a forward. Maybe they could, throw him 25. But I think Tobias does really like playing in the city of Detroit. It seems like he's kind of revitalized his career, playing here. Seems like he's got a little bit more energy. Like, this is the most I've seen him dunk in quite a while. Like, he's one of the older players on this team, and he's had a lot of dunks in the playoffs. I'm like, man, he's like playing like, you know, his first stint when he was in Detroit dunking. Like, I love that. But, overall, I love just what Tobias Harris has been bringing. Lakers want both Tobias and Duran. Yeah, I mean, that's the rumors. If I was the Lakers, I'd probably want Jalen Duran too. If my starting center was DeAndre Ayton, and their forward crops outside of LeBron James and Luka are pretty bleak. The Lakers will be active. I just don't really know like what they're going to do this offseason, but we're not really concerned about the Lakers. They're probably going to get swept by OKC. I don't think they have any type of chance of beating OKC whatsoever. If we keep ISOing, Hunting, Donovan Mitchell, and Harden with Caden Tobias, how can they beat us? That's a good question. Like, I think that's the biggest problem with both of those players is they are so isolation heavy, where it actually takes away from Cleveland's team, where they're trying to get into their spots, they're trying to get into their flow, and like, you can't really play like that in the playoffs when like every possession counts. Like, you can't have games if you're Cleveland. Like the way James has been playing, like James Harden, he's a hell of a talent. Like, don't get it twisted, but like, he's hurting Cleveland's flow because he's holding onto the ball way too much. And when he does pass, it's such a late shot clock where the Pistons have just done a really good job of just staying in front of both of them, where it's kind of just cutting off their flow. But yeah, I don't really see an adjustment from Kenny Atkinson. I thought I would have saw like more pick and rolls with Evan Mobley and James Harden, or vice versa with Jared Allen, but it's just like more isolation. So Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what does happen this series. It really will. I'm gonna wrap up this podcast though, but I do appreciate you guys so much. Watching these post game podcasts. Pistons are up 2-0 in the Eastern Conference semifinals. Next game is Saturday. It's an early game, I believe it's like 3, if I do remember correctly, but we'll be live immediately after that game around 6:37, whenever the game does end. The Pistons will be on the road against Cleveland. But I do appreciate you guys into just watching, supporting, commenting, messaging, wanting to talk after the game, wanting to talk after these post game podcasts. Like I haven't been this excited and this hyped since the going to work years, and I think a lot of us are very excited and hyped up for the Pistons. Like, man, if they make the Eastern Conference Finals, man, like just think about that. Like 2 years removed, like they won 14 games. Like that's crazy to think about. There might be a documentary like on Netflix going from 14 to like they make the NBA Finals, and I know I'm projecting, but like man, it feels good for the city of Detroit. It feels good for diehard Pistons fans that have supported this team, through the rebuild. But we'll talk to you guys really soon. Hope you guys have a great rest of your night. And as always, go Pistons. Peace.